Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us to our YouTube channel. I'm gonna introduce to you our group. It contains 5 persons. Firstly, we have here Mazuzianis, Bilhussein Suad, Touari Lilia, Alwash Furiel, Abidi Ahmed, Tuati Muhammad. So what I'm going to do in this afternoon is to give you all the skills and the information that you are searching about. This video is about language variation. We will see together what is language variation, types of language variation, its context and usage, conclusion, and finally, a bibliography. So please keep following the video in order to understand better. Language variation is the study of how language use differs among various social contexts, communities, and people. It can take many shapes such as regional dialect, social dialect, ethnolect, and genderlect sociolinguistic. Also, study language context, language change, and language policy. Types of language variation. There are several types of language variation. The first one is regional variation, mean the differences in language use that are associated with a geographic region. For example, in the United States, people in the Northeast region may use different vocabulary and pronunciation than people in the South. Secondly, we have the social variation. It's the differences in language use that are associated with a social group, such as social class, gender, age, and ethnicity. For example, people from different socioeconomic background may use different language patterns and vocabulary. Stylistic variation is the differences in language use that are associated with different contexts or situations. For example, people may use more formal language in professional setting than they do in casual conversations. Register variation mean differences in language use that are associated with different levels of formality or informality. For example, people may use more formal language when giving a speech than when talking to friends. Ethnolect variation is the differences in language use that are associated with a specific ethnic or racial group. For example, African American English is a distinct ethnolect that has its own grammar, vocabulary, and pronunciation. And the last one is the dialect variation. It's the differences in language use that are associated with a specific dialect of language. For example, British English and American English are two distinct dialects of English that have different vocabulary and pronunciation and grammar. These types of English variation are often interconnected and can overlap with each other. Studying English variation can help us better understand how language use is shaped by and shapes social context and relationships. Here we have the context and usage. In linguistics, context refers to the situation or environment in which language is used. The context of language use include factors such as the speaker, the listener, the physical setting, the social and the cultural norm, and the purpose or goal of the communication. The context provides important information that helps to determine the meaning of language. For example, the same sentence can have different meaning depending on the context in which it's used. Consider the sentence, I'm fine. If someone says this in response to the question, how are you feeling? It's likely mean that they are feeling well. However, if someone says this in sarcastic tone after being criticized, it may mean the opposite. They are not fine and they are upset. Usage refers to the way in which language is used in different contexts and situations. Language usage can vary depending on factors such as the social status, age, gender, and cultural background of speakers, as well as the relationship between the speakers, the setting in which the communication takes place, and the purpose of the communication. Studying context and usage in linguistics help us to understand how language is used to convey meaning in different social, cultural, and communicative contexts, and how it can reflect and shape social relationships and identities. In conclusion, we can say that language variation refers to the ways in which language use change across various social, cultural, and communicative setting. It is an important concept in sociolinguistic grasps how language reflects and shapes social relationships, identities, and power dynamic recurs through grasps of language variation, regional, social, stylistic register, ethnic, and dialect variation are only a few of many distinct types of language variation that exist, and each one expresses a different facet of social and cultural identities, and power dynamic recurs through grasps of language variation, regional, social, stylistic register, ethnic, and dialect variation are only a few of many distinct types of language variation that exist, and each one expresses a different facet of social and cultural identity. As the situation or environment in which language is used can affect its meaning and use, context and usage also play a significant role in language variation. By exploring the different types of language variation and considering the role of context and usage, linguists can gain a deeper understanding of rich and diverse ways in which language is used and how it reflects and shape the societies and culture in which it's used. Ultimately, the study of language variation is critical for understanding the complex relationship between language, culture, and society.